and welcome to Session 2 of the National Black Feminist Book Group. My name is Michelle Odom, and I am one of the co-hosts along with Randy Henderson. This session runs from August 19th until October 14th, 2014, and we are reading Alice Walker's book, We Are the Ones We've Been Waiting For, Inner Light in a Time of Darkness, Meditation. Our book group meets each Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Google Plus Hangouts on Air platform. You can find the National Black Feminist Book Group on Google, YouTube, and Facebook. Please feel free to join us in reading our story together. Tonight's meeting is focused on the introduction in Chapter 1, Three Fates of Our Selection. We are the ones. We are on point number 5 and 6. Does somebody want to read that?
I guess I'll read it.
Okay.
Miss Walker then directed her attention to Ames Scott College graduating class and told them, since you've invited me to Ames Scott College on the special day, the day in which you launch yourselves into a new and ever more challenging studies of endeavors in the world, I will feel free in giving you the advantage of my own harsh opinion about having children just now. I believe there should be a moratorium on the birth of children. She went further, saying that not one child should be born until several pounds of plutonium that showed up missing be found. She also talked about the polluting of the water supply and acid rain. She spoke about the caging of animals and the mistreatment of nature. She asked the graduates to think of their children as they enter into the world. Ms. Walker tries to get the graduate as well as the reader to embrace the reality that the earth is our mother and a celestial being. She also points out that we are grandparents and parents to all grandchildren and children of the earth. She was quick to point out that this does not necessarily mean physically, but metaphorically. With this type of philosophy, we can become a change agent for the earth and the inhabitants. My question was, could the plutonium described by Ms. Walker be a metaphor for our personal toxic waste? If so or not, please explain.
Now see, I hadn't thought about it being a metaphor. But since you raised that question, I don't know. I think it's an interesting way of looking at it. You know, yeah, we have we're very toxic. Before you got here earlier, we talked a little bit about mental illness, and you know, another side of that is what's going on environmentally is having an effect on our bodies. I personally, I have a level of brain damage going on that occurred as a result of carbon monoxide coming into my car, and that went on for several years, and the doctors weren't finding anything, but it was taking its toll on me. And after I eventually figured it out, you know, the damage was done. But it certainly made me, there was a hole in the manifold of my car, whatever that is, that allowed the CO to come in. But, you know, it made me think about all the hours that we spend sitting in traffic. You know, I'm in New York City, and, you know, the capital of traffic. And, you know, and what are we breathing in? while that's happening, and what effect is it having? And certainly our doctors are never going to be able to connect the environmental toxins that we're ingesting to the physical ailments that we're having, but there's a connection. So, yeah, it frightens me greatly to think about that missing plutonium. I wasn't thinking about it until Alice Walker mentioned it, but now that she has.
Yeah, the reason why I said that, I think a lot of times, a lot of times the plutonium to most people, they might call it platinum, but I think, what I'm saying is people a lot of times, we, especially, I would say myself, but human nature says if something really doesn't affect us, they could care less about the plutonium. Probably 77.5 billion people in the world don't even know that the plutonium emits. I personally forgot about it, and like you said, until she wrote it. I remember reading about it a long time ago. However, the plutonium that I'm thinking about, that she had the people in the graduating class to think about, say, hey, don't have any more children until we get this done. She might have been saying to me, I took, don't bring a child into the world if you're not got yourself together, if you don't clean yourself up to bring this precious being into the world. Clean up the environment around you, in yourself, in your soul, and before you bring this creature into Mother Earth. That's the way I looked at it, because when I read, I always try to, people are so creative, and this woman is so creative. I was like, what is she talking about? So it spoke to me in that particular way.
Interesting. Anybody else on that question?
I guess, hi, it's Kim. I really relate, and I think what both of you said resonates with me. And I agree. I look at the way alcoholism and different emotional upsets transfer from generation to generation to generation. And sometimes when I look at the current generation, I think they are more removed from what little health my generation has. And so for them to be out here with their baggy pants and their dirty underwear showing it, and then they're having babies, there's just a part of me that says, well, wait a minute, why don't you wait until you mature a little bit and then try that route? Because I just feel like it's not fair to that baby and then the grandchildren that come from it. And so I just look at, I don't know, I would just love it if we could have more families around, the same way we were talking earlier about having a village around every baby that was born. And the closer we get to that, I think it's like finding the uranium.
Yes.
Right. Right. Yeah, again, back to this Ferguson situation, and I was reading something about the young people there being really just not interested in what the elders had to say to them. Basically telling Al Sharpton and company, um, that they didn't have anything to offer them, that they could pack up their bags and
Wow.
head east.
All right now.
And,
Yeah, but that is yeah, and remember, I remember in the last book that we talked about change agents, and I think you, Michelle, you had mentioned that young people are the ones that make change. They have the less baggage. They don't have these young people. And I saw one the other night. He said today he's ready to die because he didn't think he was going to live to 21. And me myself, hey, they're forcing change. They're not waiting. They're not shutting up. The day has come for them to march and for them to to protest. You know, they want them to keep walking. I was like, well, if these guys want these young people to keep walking, the sit-ins that happened in my home state in Greensboro, North Carolina, would have never happened because it was a sit-in. But I look at these young people now, you know, and I think, you know, are they a little bit, are they disobedient? Yes. Are they throwing bottles? Yes. We can argue about the Molotov cocktails or whatever's going on. That could be a plant by the police department. We don't know. But I think they're doing, me myself, civil disobedience is a part of our constitutional right. Nobody said anything about when they pointed assault weapons on the Bundy Ranch about a month ago, you know, with a standoff with hundreds of guns that pointed and ready to take down FBI agents. So I don't want to hear about kids throwing rocks.
Yeah, I mean, I think my point was going to be that, you know, I think it's a shame that things have gotten to the point where young people don't see any value. It's a shame, and it's pretty scary for humanity if young people don't see any value in what older people have to offer, and it's indicative of really the failure of our generation
Thank you.
to bridge that gap. I mean, we know that there is going to be a generation gap. There was a generation gap between us and our elders. Um, but I don't know that we actually felt that they didn't have anything of value to share. And that seems to be what a lot of young people are feeling these days. I mean, I think they're wrong. I mean, I think that to some degree they're wrong, and to some degree they're right.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
We have to go back to ourselves.
The mother of two young people.
Yeah, we have to go back to ourselves. And there's a reason why a lot of the younger people don't have respect for the elders. Because the elders, and I'm looking all around me, black, white, green, and yellow, not just black folks, just have not actually shown any self-respect for a long time.
Starting wars.
Well, I'm talking about, well, even without the wars, just in your space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, children learn by their products of their environment. So if you're not showing that wisdom because you out doing crack, you out finger popping, you can't read yourself, so you can't teach your child to read, how are they going to respect you? You're not showing any wisdom. That's what I see. So these children are actually, they're blind. They're actually trying to feel their way around. Now, when I grew up, whether you were poor or not, or have or didn't have, I actually had an elder.
Yeah.
My grandmother was grandmother.
And too many of them have literally had to raise themselves.
Right. She didn't smoke crack pot. She wasn't taken to the polls. She wasn't doing none of that stuff. My grandmother was a grandmother. I respected her. I looked to her. I listened to her. I mean, being a grown woman, I listened to her. But with these children, you know, we do have to take responsibility for that. Totally. And that's, like I said, that's across the board. I live in an all-Caucasian society. And girl, if it wasn't that you couldn't kill people and you had to go to jail, I might be out here doing something crazy. Because the children have no guidance. So what they're actually trying to do through throwing these bottles and doing all the other crazy things they're doing is trying to find out what they should be doing.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm a social worker, and I work in the Bronx. So I work with a cross section of people, mostly people of color, mostly where I am, African Americans, Latinos. There's a growing population of Pakistanis, which is they wear the hijab and everything. But my point, what I want to say is, and I've been a social worker for over 15 years. Kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I'm sorry, if there's anything toxic going on right now, it's the dishonesty with which we discourse with our kids,
Yeah.
these kids know that we are lying. We say, do as I say, not as I do. And we actually do that. The man mentioned just now, the war in Iraq. You know, we've got all these anti-bullying programs. Really? In America, anti-bullying? We are connoisseurs of bullying. We set the standard for bullying. So when our kids see our actions, but they hear what we say, those kids. And another thing I want to say, when I was growing up, you knew that you had a community behind you, so that when you went to school and you were insulted or be dehumanized or belittled, you could go home to your grandma, because that's who raised me, my grandma, and you could say, Grandma, man, you know, so-and-so said so-and-so. These kids, like the lady said, these kids are taking care of themselves. They're wearing their pants off their ass because that's what we have left them. That is, I think it's, and the toxicness, I think, comes from people of color not telling themselves and each other the truth about how we've got to get where we've got to go. We don't have to be rich. We don't have to be rich. I don't have to have money to have pride.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to have on a pair of Jordans to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not, we're not teaching our kids, to me, and what I teach my kids, not only my personal kids, but my kids that I work with, is listen, if you can't treat yourself well, if you can't respect yourself, then you can't respect anybody. You can't. You can't expect to be respected if you don't respect yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Can I say something? Thank you.
We are.
Oh, okay.
We are after 8 o'clock. Does anybody?
Oh Lord, it's already 8?
Yes. Does anybody have any final comments you'd like to make?
Hi, this is Kim. I just wanted to say, just in terms of this conversation, I'm a parent. I parent a 16-year-old, but I have dozens of nieces and nephews. And sometimes when they see me coming, they said, "Oh, here comes Harriet Tubman." You know,
Yeah.
she always got something to say. You know, and so I think that our voices are so much smaller than our parents and our grandparents, because they have all of this negative rap music, this MTV. Yeah. The voices are so much smaller. And I was mentoring somebody at school, and she said to me, she says, "You know, Miss Brandon, I speak just as well as you, but if I speak the way you speak, I'm going to get beat up."
Exactly.
And so there's this image of who these kids, their heroes are. They're wonderful black people out there, and I think that they're wonderful role models. They're wonderful parents out there. I don't want to say that all parents are not listening and not communicating well with their children. I think they are. I just think that there are these other voices that say, don't listen to that, because if you listen to me, you can spend $5 at my whatever. And so I'm going to pimp you. I'm going to pimp you into taking money to buy your Jordans, buy your whatever, and it takes you further and further away from who you are as a person and who you are in your community. And that's the sad thing that I see, that we as a people are being pimped.
Yeah, yeah.